Hi, it's Hazel, and welcome to my channel, Hazel and Aka Design. I'm very glad to have you here today. This video, I'm going to plunge right in, is going to be the first in a continuing series on making and using fabric cloth. Now, I didn't invent this, I didn't think of it, my total and complete inspiration came from this book called Stitch Alchemy, Combining Paper and Fabric for Mixed Media Art. Like, is that an invitation that you could refuse? The author is Kelly Perkins. The date is 2009, and you can see that I've marked a number of pages and projects and so on. Now, because there are a few, well, not that many supplies needed at this point, but there is a bit of prep to do. So that's basically what this first video is going to be about. I have done about 6 sheets already, but they're in the process of drying. So the next video will show those sheets that have dried. So let's start at the beginning, I guess, and tell you what you need. You need freezer paper. And you need a piece of freezer paper slightly larger than the fabric piece that you'll be working on. So you can see that, well, maybe I should start at the bottom. I have a number of pieces of muslin. So in other words, just a plain, I don't even know where this came from, to be honest. If it was, I don't think it was a bed sheet, but certainly a bed sheet or a pillowcase or something like that would work. I think it's fairly cheap to buy as well. It must have been something that had a hem because the stitching lines are there. So I was lucky enough a few years ago to buy a gigantic roll of freezer paper for $3 at a thrift store. And this, I guess this is 18 inches. This represents the width of the roll, and it's many, many, many yards. So I really didn't skimp. Now, so I guess first thing you need to do is decide what fabric you're working on. And I think until we get our legs under us and figure out how well this works, it would be best to stick with a proven entity like a muslin. So once you decide on the pieces that you want to, the size of pieces that you want to use. Now, mine is about 13 inches by 9.5. And to be honest, I don't know why I picked that. Typically, I want there to be as little waste as possible. And I knew that I wanted my pieces to be potentially as big enough to be a journal cover, which this would be. Any size will work. And so what I did was I cut, I don't know how many of that size I have. I guess I could almost tell. Not that it matters. You prepare. If you want to play along, then obviously you prepare as many as you want to. I just think that by the time we do a little bit of setup and so on, you might as well make it worth your while. No one would want to fool around with this to do one piece. This is a smaller scrap. This is only 7 and a bit by 12.5. So the pieces of wax paper are smaller as well. This is something square. I don't know where that came from. Anyway, you get the idea. Use what you have. Now, this is freezer paper, as I've already said, and that's what the author has suggested. I'm going to get rid of these because we'll only be working on one at a time. But I think that in the absence of freezer paper, I don't see why parchment paper wouldn't work just as well. Or wax paper, you know, something like that. So the other thing you need to do is make a glue mixture. Now, first of all, you're going to need to eat a little barrel of sauerkraut so that you have a nice little jar like this. Once you've eaten the sauerkraut and have a nice empty jar, you want to, whatever container you use, you want it to be able to close tightly, because apparently the glue mixture will last almost indefinitely, providing it's sealed. I know that somewhere I have a glue mixture that I made. I didn't bother looking for it because I thought I want to make a big batch. I want it to be fresh, and I wanted the mouth to be wide enough that I could use either this 1.5-inch brush, or another thing I could have used was a sponge, like a foam brush. So anyway, what I did was I added, now I don't know that the temperature of the water necessarily matters, but the ratio that you're looking for between glue and water is 2 to 1. So 2 parts water, 1 part glue. Now, a long time ago, and I think this was Walmart, I bought this 950 ml bottle of school glue, washable school glue. No run formula, blah, blah, blah. #1 teacher's brand, Elmer's brand. And, well, that's what I was using. Now, it doesn't have to be that brand. I think in the book she mentions that she likes Aleene's Tacky Glue. Now, you can see that it's pretty thin. So, like I said, I added the water first, so I guess a person could have done it the other way. And I just kept adding more glue until I thought that maybe it was the right consistency. Now, she doesn't explain what the right consistency is, other than to say that it needs to be able to spread fairly easily. The other thing that I have nearby, and I've only used it just now while I was prepping to turn the video on, is a container with water to put your brush into if you were planning to pause momentarily or whatever, so that you don't ruin the brush. Okay, so basically you've got your dry piece of fabric on the waxy side, on the shiny side of the wax paper. So basically I've just been dipping in and starting from the center and working out. I'm just spreading, I'm saturating the fabric with glue. Now, you can see that this takes a little bit of effort. So naturally, I didn't want you to watch, you know, me put glue onto fabric. I just have that little jar there holding down the corner of my... So as the as the fabric gets saturated, and you can almost, I don't know if you can see, but I can see, oh, #1, I can see that there's a thread underneath there that I don't really want. I'm going to pull that out. You can, well, I sort of just say that you probably can't see, but I can see where maybe an area doesn't have quite as much glue as the other, or there might be an air bubble underneath or not. I don't know how critical that is, to be honest, but I just thought that if I'm working on this, I might as well do it as well as I can. Like, I don't, you know, it's probably not a deal breaker or a failure if you don't, but, you know, just wanted to not leave anything to chance, because this is, you know, me learning / teaching. Now, I think the first thing that she talked about, because of course, now that as soon as I get this fabric saturated, then I'm going to begin gluing some paper to it. Now, I was pretty, I'm sorry, pretty conservative in what I chose. Now, she said that the cheap white tissue paper gets really great results. So I had some. She also recommends, and this is where I think there's value in you just watching this video and making a few notes or whatever, or re-watching it, so that you can do all your prep before you start. Because of course you don't want to, think you're ready for the first sheet and then realize that, oh, your brush is hardening because you haven't prepped your papers. So I'll show you in 1 second. So I did a few sheets with plain white tissue paper, and she suggested that it's easier to work in strips. Now, you can probably tell that I just tore this. And she thought that, 2-inch strips are pretty good. Well, I've been tearing them into smaller pieces because the whole idea is to crisscross and interlock, sort of, so that you build in a little more strength. Then I guess I must have gotten to thinking that, oh, cutting would be neater and faster. I don't know that that's, on this it probably doesn't matter, because the white is going to blend well enough and you won't have any sharp edges. So I have, a whole whack of this ready to do because I wanted to, exactly, be ready. I don't know, this has been sitting for a while, to be honest, waiting for me to actually do this video. And I finally decided, like, what am I waiting for? Just do it. So I'm just gathering up, not that that's necessarily going to help you any, but I'm just trying to show you that I have, a lot of this ready to go. And this is multiple layers here. This is a small piece of fabric here. So I have a whole bunch of that ready to use. And I thought to myself, well, if I start doing white on neutral, you're not going to see anything. So I then went on to use tissue paper. And you'll see that in the next video. Then I thought, well, I've got a lot of napkins. Why don't I do some napkins? So then I did 1 or 2 with napkins. So I think there's more benefit to you to be able to see sort of the crisscrossing and the interlocking. Now on one of the napkin, and these pieces I didn't cut into or tear into long strips, because number one, the pieces aren't as long. Now I hope, can you see this corner? Oh, just barely. I'll move this up a smidge. And I don't know that I probably will show you me doing the entire piece. So basically you just lay it down. And because the paper is so very thin, if you just sort of, pat it down gently, it's going to stay in place. Now, I was a little overzealous at the beginning, and I ended up tearing. So you want to really use a gentle hand, and this is why having the glue nice and thin, I think, saves the day as well. I see I've gone past the edge of the cloth, but that's okay. Now, I'm probably working that too much as it is, so stop it. So basically, I sort of prepped 3 different napkin scraps, and I will treat this almost like I was doing a masterboard, in that I'm going to probably distribute most of this first pattern all over, you know, sort of get it evenly distributed or somewhat evenly distributed around the surface. And you will see that because there is a pattern here, the edges where they overlap, or the top layer that is going to be the most visible, are going to, you know, those hard edges, cut edges, straight edges are going to be pretty evident. Now, the proper technique, from my experience with tearing, is that you kind of want to tamp or pounce. If you kind of smooth it out a bit with your fingers, it gets saturated. It's not going to lift, and you can basically just pounce it, or use, in my case, I'm using the flat of the brush because I'm less likely to tear it that way. Now, because this whole thing here is just creating a base, and there will be many more things that could be added, and that we'll do that over a course of videos too, because I'm eager to try that. So there could be sewing. Now, of course, the fabric backing is going to make sewing so much easier. Painting, dyeing, stamping, stitching, you know, hand stitching or machine stitching. She said, you know, you probably want it to be as smooth as you can get it in case you do some of those other next steps. Maybe I'll put this here and we will call it done for this. I have another small piece. These were sort of, I have this drawer. I have a lot of napkins, and I also have them in both my Etsy shop and in the Maker's Market. So I have a lot of napkins. This is just a fraction of them. And if there are, you know, if somebody's given me a couple in Happy Mail or whatever, if I just have one or two, that's sort of what I'm trying to use up here. Like, I don't remember where I got this. Might have been from Kim. I'm going to use them in a project like this because, you know, why not? Okay, so now I'm adding a second design. Again, I have lots of these napkins, but maybe not so many in my scrap drawer here. So now, I don't know if you were able to see that or not, but maybe I'll lift this up once I've finished, and I'll show you that I do have a few creases. Now, I've never minded creases. I think the texture, I think adding that would actually be nice. I think this is a good way to use up scraps for sure, as well as if you have any nice printed tissue. Now, she also talks about using gift wrap. I'm sure that that would work well too, and goodness knows I've got lots of gift wrap. So I'm sure I'll do that at some point. Maybe I should have this way. I have the fewest pieces right here of this particular pattern, so I want to really make sure I kind of distribute it evenly. Now, I have no idea. I'm so sorry. Oh, see, I think I made well, no, it's not a tear, but she also said you don't have to totally cover the fabric. That this is all I have left, I think, of this, or at least, oh, here's another small piece. so I don't have to tear it in half. Yeah, that should be, I think that's all I have now. So I'm going to try to, now you can see that's a sharp edge, but hopefully there will be an opportunity to somehow, you know, if not at this point in the process, at some point, soften that edge. And then this. Now, at this point, I'm not doing too much overlapping. When I was just using the plain white too, I ended up tearing a little bit off. I ended up, when I was using the plain white tissue paper, I really overlapped a lot and crisscrossed and so on. I don't know, to be honest, if all that is necessary for strength or whatever, but certainly it won't hurt anything. Okay, so then my third pattern is this, well, I think I've already shown it to you, is this really cute floral. And it's got those the same mauve and goldy things in there. The other thing the author said is that she found, now I could, maybe I should, just get rid of this. You know, it's like doing napkin decoupage in a sense, that the more sort of ragged the edges are, the better it's going to blend in. Whoops, that looks crooked to me. So, you know, it's almost like, oh, this is a perfect thing for me to do, since I love doing masterboards. It's just, I think it's going to really give some cool options. And as I said, I haven't done, well, there's a straight line, but I think I'll just not worry about that right this second. Whoops. Well, that looks crooked. Oh, now let me show you this. I was a little rough, and look, I tore this and this, and I have this little bit that's rolling here. Now, I said I'm not afraid of texture, but there's no need for this either, so I'll just try to be a little slower and a little more cognizant. Now, I, of course, could be turning things sideways, but somehow I don't really want to. I kind of think that there's an up and a down here. But of course, you know, do whatever. Like if you decide to do this, which I really hope you do, because I think this is going to be awesome. And if you guys quickly get on this and do a few sheets, have a few sheets prepped, then obviously it will be easier and more productive, more efficient if you, you know, have those done ahead of time, so then we go on to some of the experimenting. I do want there to be overlap, so, because that's where the strengthening comes into it, apparently. Now, oh, I started to say that the house is warm, like it was over 30 here today. which is, I don't know, maybe a bit unusual. It is September. So I have no idea how long it's going to take for this to thoroughly dry to the point where a person can peel it off the freezer paper. Now, another thing she said is that she saves the paper because, of course, it can be reused, and it could also be, you know, kind of the drop sheet or the protection for the next steps, you know, the spraying, the whatever. It's shaping up, I'd say. So far, I haven't felt the desire to leave any pieces off the paper, off the fabric. Visible, because I don't know, it just seemed like, I don't know, I didn't want to, I guess. And again, it's, you know, it seems to work better if you go from the inside. And you can also, maybe not visible to you on your screen, but you can tell if, oh, this has probably not got enough glue on it. You can tell if the piece that you've just added is not thoroughly saturated. You know, there's a slight color variation. Maybe I'll do kind of a narrow piece along the edge here. I hope that you had, of course, by the time you see this, it will be past the long weekend, but I hope that you had a good long weekend. Ours was pretty busy, go, go, go. My grandson was invited to a hockey training camp for a WHL team, so we spent a lot of time at the arena. But it was good because we got to visit and, you know, spend time with the family and so on. So, yeah, it was a bit hard to figure out how to dress, though, because, of course, it was mild outside, but cold in the arena. So, yeah, wearing sandals was a bit... Tootsies were a little cold. There were people there in winter jackets, like sort of down-filled jackets. I'm thinking, wow, if you're wearing that in August, what are you going to do in January? But to each his own. I think this maybe proves also that the more patterns, the more variety you have, the easier it might be to, to create the collage. Or if I would have had, I maybe should have taken the time to look more for some, I can't talk. To look for more scraps of the purpley pinky one. I'll put one in this corner. And again, I'm sorry if you can't totally see every single corner of the paper, but the technique is the same. Tamping, pouncing, trying to make it as smooth as possible. And perhaps I should stop there, because if I cover, don't think I have anything. Well, I do have a bit more of this one, but I don't know. Maybe I'll put a skinny little strip along the bottom here. And that mauve is not so. And again, it's, you know, it's similar to doing a masterboard. Is there any wrong way? No. Now that is almost impossible. Well, maybe you will be able to see it. But it's just that, you know, it pushed back the purpley bits a little bit. Oh, I see I have a little boo-boo here. Now, if I, you know, sometimes it might be simpler just to pick these little things that have rolled off than to try to, you know, make them flat again, because that's probably not going to happen. Maybe I should use another skinny little strip at the top here, so we'll get the same effect. And because it's light, the mauve part is still coming through. I think I'm going to stop there. And I'm going to stop, period. So I'll just recap what it is that you need. You need a jar or bucket, something with a cover that, you know, can seal things. Make a glue mixture using 2 parts water and 1 part glue. You saw the consistency that I used, which seems to be about, oh, I shouldn't have probably put that in the water yet. It looks to me like that might not be thoroughly saturated. So freezer paper, if you don't have freezer paper, I would say wax paper or parchment paper will work equally as well. White, if you want some plain old bases to start with. Plain old El Cheapo white, whatchamacallit, tissue paper. Then if you have other printed tissue paper or gift wrap, which I haven't tried gift wrap yet, napkins. Oh, and I also did sewing pattern paper. Now, you know that in a typical pattern, you could end up with huge areas, like if it was, say, a dress or something, you could end up with huge areas where there's really nothing printed other than maybe an arrow and the borders. So in this case, I used some really intense dark pieces, as well as some white, more open and plain pieces. So I'll show you that again next time after it's thoroughly dried. We'll see how easy or hard it is to peel it off the wax paper. And so remember not to let your brush dry or it'll be ruined. You can use a brush like this. This 1.5 inches seems to be a pretty good width, but of course if you had something narrower or something wider, you would make that work. Or a El Cheapo foam brush, and in that case maybe you would maybe it's simpler just to throw it away. But of course you also always have the option of washing it and reusing it. Okay, and then, for heaven's sakes, tell yourself to stop putzing once you have it done. Again, these pieces are fairly light in color. I did do some very dark napkins, and those straight edges are very evident. So that tells me that you should either be aware that you'll be creating straight edges or tear your pieces. Like I have this pink, really attractive Parisian type napkin. So I pre-tore a bunch of pieces, and I will do this on probably another sheet. I have enough to, and I think even though it's all one napkin, all one thing, there's so much variety going on that it would look as though I had used more than one napkin. Now, of course, if you didn't have white tissue paper, you could also use, you know, the napkin backing paper that you separate when you're using napkins in any sort of a format. So yeah, while my brush is still dirty and while I still have another Netflix episode to watch, I will I'll do this Paris one as well, and you'll be able to see that in the next video. So I'll just show you that book title again in case you want to keep an eye peeled for it. Stitch Alchemy by Kelly Perkins. And I think that there's going to be project after project after project in here that we will, I mean, we're not going to totally replicate what she's done, but certainly there are a lot of options for some of the next steps that we can take. So I will stop there. I invite you to give this video a thumbs up and invite you to do some homework and be ready for the next video. Because I think if we do this together, it'll be even more fun. Thanks, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.